Hi, everyone. My name is Emily. I work for an organization called If Not Now. If Not Now is a emergent organization in the Jewish community to end our community support for the occupation in Palestine. That also works to reclaim the meaning of Jewish identity so that young people in our community are proud to say that we are Jewish.
That's great. Thank you, Emily. And Emily, my name is Carlos Saavedra. I am with INE. And Emily and I are going to lead you into our first session. And I'm going to do the first part, and Emily's going to do the second part. Who's ready for changing your organizations or creating new ones? Say aye. Aye. Excellent. Are we there, team? Number one thing we're trying to do is we're trying to understand. Can you say understand with me? Understand. The purpose, potential, dynamics, everything else around decentralized, or what some people call distributed organization. Okay? Can you say number two? Two. We're going to try to get clear on some of those main concepts. Okay? Clear on some of those concepts. Can you say number three? Three. We're going to understand the relationship between form and function. What do I mean by this? Who has a beautiful mission statement in your organizational website? Beautiful mission statement. That sounds really awesome. Great. How many of you have seen other mission statements that sound awesome? How many have seen those? But then when you go to the organization, what they're saying they do is not really what's happening. Who has seen that? Yeah. Say aye. Aye. Who gets angry when that happens? Aye. Good. It's like aye. Can you say number four? Four. Perfect. We want to evaluate. This is very important. We want to evaluate where your organization is currently at. We want to confront the brutal facts about where are we currently at. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, we want to imagine where is it that we want to take this thing. Okay, we want to figure out where we want to take it, and then we want to figure out this whole weekend tomorrow. It's about figuring out where you're at, where you're going, and how do we close the gap. Okay, where do we close the gap? And number five, can you say five? We want to figure out how we can embody some practices of decentralized organization here. Are the practices going to be perfect, yes or no? No. Good, thank you. But how many of you are learning some of the stuff with the roles, the buttons, the way we're dealing with that? How many of you are learning something? Raise your hands. Great. If you're not learning something, then please come here to the center because we need to learn some stuff. Great. So we're going to try to embody this. Give me another click, let's see. Now I'm in energy. Okay. Which means that we're going to do some understanding. Now, I want to ask you to do a little survey here. How many of you feel like you are new to the concepts or thinking around decentralized organization, that you're new? Raise your hand real high and proud because I want to see you. Okay, great. At least half of the room. At least half of the room. How many of you feel like you know some about decentralized organizations, even you read a book or you had some experience in an organization? Raise your hands. Great. Okay, some people raising their hands both times. So you're confusing the trainers here. I see some of you are there in the middle. How many of you are complete nerds of decentralized organization? Raise your hand. Complete nerds. Okay. Raise it really high. Don't worry. Nerds is a good thing in our culture now. Tammy, good. 1, 2, 3. Tim, Randall, awesome. Perfect. We love you too. If you're those people that people in your family life tell you to stop talking about it, those are the good people here. So we're going to try to understand. Now, we see that everyone is at different levels. So today, the big point is to do some of the basic concepts and get some clarity on that. Would that be okay? Because we want to make sure we're all in similar places around it, okay? Also, we are not going to understand everything about decentralized organizations by the end of the weekend. Is that okay? Yes. Please don't think that it's a physics training and you're going to become a physicist by Sunday. It's not going to happen, okay? It's going to take time. We're just going to get the basic concepts. Then you're going to have plenty of time tomorrow to do some design of your organization. Where's Miss Sam Corbin? Where's Miss Corbin? Can we give it up for Sam Corbin, please, on the back? She's going to introduce herself, but she is part of Movement NetLab, which Tammy and Ben are part of as well, and we're collaborating on figuring out how to do some of this training together, which is awesome. And then at the end of day 3, we're going to do some building together. We're going to figure out what are the first steps that are going to take you to build this thing that you want to build or change the thing you want to change. Would that be okay? First step, are you going to build it by the end of the weekend, yes or no? No. Okay, good. It's good. It's good that we're clear on expectations, yes or no? Yes. You're like, Carlos, we paid $100 or whatever dollars. Where is my descent? No, I'm like, I'm sorry. That's not the deal for Sunday. Okay, good. Deep breaths, everybody. Deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. And give a high five to the person left and right and tell them, hey. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I saw some flirting going on. I was like, one person, somebody's like to every step. Okay, so let's go back, overview. So number one, so there's some trends that are happening. So this is for the new people. There's some things that are happening around this thing called decentralized organization. Give me another click, please, Lizzie. Thank you so much. This is pretty, so I just want you to understand the times that we're in. If we got into a time machine, okay, right now, and we will go to the past 20 years ago, okay? Just 20 years is nothing in lifetime, okay? 20 years. We go in the past. And I will go to a library and I will be like, hey, people in the library, that encyclopedia that you just spent like $500 million on, in our time, we don't even use them anymore. They're completely outdated. They will look at me and they would say, Carlos, you are completely insane. This is everything we have. There's the best editors are doing this across the world, and it costs us $500 million, right? But things have changed so much that this is not the way that we get most of our encyclopedias. Is this true or not? How many of you get your information through Wikipedia? Perfect. How many think the information is legit all the time? It's legit sometimes, it depends, right? But there's thousands of people that are contributing content, yes or no? Thousands of people that are editing this process, right? Does it cost you money or is it kind of free? Kind of free, right? Let me give him another click, right? We're seeing this happen. Also, if I get into my, again, time machine, right? I love a lot the time machine. Back to the Future is my favorite movie, okay? Go back 20 years ago to young Carlos, okay? When I was 11 or 12 years old. And I go there and I'm like, go to Tower Records. And now, have you seen, those people that are evangelic that wear the world's going to end posters? With the pictures of the bombs and everything. Imagine if I had pictures of Napster and all those things, and I was going to the store, and I was going to be like, oh my God, Tower Records, please, you're going to close in a couple of years. The end is coming for the music industry. They would be like, I'm sorry, sir, we're going to have to escort you out, right? You are completely insane, right? But who was part of Napster? Who was part of Napster? Awesome, right? For the people that don't know Napster, and I can't believe I'm saying this in my life now. Some people might not know Napster, but it was an application where people downloaded music for free, right? Now we have so many different ways to get music. Is that true or not? Yes. Has completely destabilized and changed some of the industries. Give me one more click. Something more recent is Uber. How many people here have used Uber? Raise your hand. Great. If you didn't raise your hand, you're lying about other things too. But Uber is totally transforming the transportation industry. I'm not saying this is good, by the way. I just want to throw it. I don't have any money in Uber, so this is not good. Okay? But is it clearly changing the transportation industry massively? Yes or no? Yes. It's completely different. Okay? So give me one more click. And we're seeing this trend of decentralization, and it's not just one thing. It's in many areas, okay? Happening in so many fronts. Like, for example, we're seeing this in corporations. Has anybody heard of holacracy? Who has heard of holacracy? Just your hand. Who has not heard of holacracy? This is important. Okay. Holacracy is a system that has been developed for corporations so that corporations can become decentralized. Okay? Who has bought shoes at Zappos or heard about Zappos? Zappos is currently going through a holacracy transformation. Okay? They have a whole book. This is a 4,000 pounds training that they do. Okay, there's a trend around that. There's movements like Black Lives Matter of Occupy, right, that are very decentralized. Is that true or not? And the thinking around, because the media doesn't understand this form of organization, one main question that they have asked to both movements at different times has been, where are your top leaders? Who has heard this question, right? Even Oprah said, well, Black Lives Matter is not even that legitimate because where are the leaders? Is that true or not? I'm just saying, you love Oprah, that's a different thing. I'm just saying what she said. Don't get hurt by me, right? But what we're meaning is there's these new forms of organizations emerging where, some people call Occupy leaderless, other people in Occupy call it leaderful, right? But this ability of having thousands of leaders, okay? We're also seeing Occupy Sandy, which Tammy, Sam, and others were part of, that they had a decentralized process, a decentralized system and organization that beat FEMA, the Red Cross, right, in the way that they went about the storm, right? I mean, very incredible. And I just want to say they're a big resource. If you want to nerd out with anybody, nerd out with the Movement NetLab people. because they are amazing. Also Airbnb. How is it this crazy that Airbnb can provide so much lodging to people and not own a single piece of property? Same thing with Uber and not owning a single piece of car, right? So we're seeing decentralized organization. And actually, there's one book that you should read. I think we have it on the list, which is called Reinventing Organizations. If you haven't checked out it, it's a must. Why? Because it gives you a lot of examples. And one of the examples that I really like is this nurses. Can somebody say this name? Say it. Say, I am not from this country, clearly. Can you somebody say it? Oh, German, right? Oh, but you did the German thing. Great. This is a group of nurses in the Netherlands that have a decentralized system of providing healthcare. And that started because the nurses were kind of getting angry that there was a central command, a group of leadership at the top that was telling the nurses how they should do their healthcare and who should they do it with. So the nurses actually rebel and they recreated the organization so the nurses can choose how they treat their patients and who are in their relationships with. And they have this circle of nurses, 12 nurses that get together and decide what they want to do. The whole story is in the book. I think it's amazing. There's 40,000 nurses, I think, that are in it. It's not just a small group, it's very large. Okay, so we're seeing this trend happening. But I want to hear from you. Give me one more click. Thank you so much, Lizzie. What are other examples that you're seeing of decentralized organization? I want to hear some from you. Yes, Alex.
There's Diaspora, which is an alternative towards Facebook, which provides different seeds and pods for people to communicate and for it to be more secure.
Can you say one? How is it called?
Diaspora.
Diaspora. Oh, awesome, awesome. It's like a platform, like a social networking kind of platform? Decentralized. Awesome. What else? Yes.
I mean, there is a central Bernie Sanders campaign, of course, but there are also a lot of like decentralized parts.
Elements of it, right?
Yeah.
Great. What else? Oh, sorry.
Zine distribution. So there's like people will hand make zines and bring them different zine festivals, and there are like distributors in different cities, and like you don't go to one person to like buy the zine. You just like go to your favorite zine distro, and people will get connected in a very networked way.
So cool. That is so cool. Yes.
Like 4chan and just other like internet forums.
Oh, cool. Say more. What is it called again?
It's called 4chan. It's like where like a lot of the memes that you probably have laughed at, like a lot of those are generated on this one sort of message board. I would just say recommend you go check it out. There's people from all over the world posting stuff.
Wow. Thank you. Yes.
Couponing ladies.
Oh, say more.
So if you're not about like couponing, like how to get like cheap prices like from stores or stuff like that, so my mom really recently just got into it, and they basically have like it's all through Facebook. So it's like couponing people that they know how to get coupons for like stores, and they do like all this stuff, and they have like online way just through Facebook. They have like anybody can join the couponing, and they teach you how to do couponing. It's just totally crazy. Wow. It's just like I was like, it's completely decentralized online through Facebook. That's just
if
it.
You want to get into couponing?
No, like it just mind blown my mind when you were explaining me, and yeah.
Wow, this is good. I gotta get my family on this.
Yeah.
Let's take a deep breath, everybody. Let's take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. Are there tons of examples that this is happening? Yes or no? Yes. Tons of examples. And they all have different elements. They're all not the same. Is that true or not? They're operating in different domains. But one thing that we want to say, give me another click, please, Lizzie, is that decentralization is not new. What do we mean by this? Is that if we go back enough to history, or we look enough at the people that still live in times, and they're in Africa and Latin America and many parts of Asia as well, there is this wisdom of collective work that has different forms and different names. For example, from the tradition that I'm from in Peru, it's called la minca, or there's called la minga. There's different shapes of it. But it's about how do people work together collectively. And there's a whole tradition. And we feel at INI that because of individualism, because of colonialism, because of all this madness that they have going on, we have lost the capacity to work together, to swarm together. Who feels that? Say aye. So it's not so much more about learning to something new, foreign, but it's also about how do we recuperar, how you say that in English? Recuperate our wisdom. How do we recuperate the memory that we have in our bodies about working together? Who's in it to figure that out? People tend to be more decentralized. It's very hard to get somebody to be centralized. People have to get trained to go in the middle of the room and try to get all the attention and all the resources and all the decisions to the center of the room. Is that true or not? Deep breaths, everybody. I'm just making sure you breathe, because if you die, it's going to be hard. Delay in logistics. Look at this beautiful picture. We also have a video we might show tomorrow around how in the Andean community they built something very special together through La Minca. We'll show it to you. And let's do a last click. And the last thing to end, before I hand it up to Emily, is that why is decentralization gaining momentum? Why are people talking about it so much? I'm telling you, it's not a new thing. We're sharing it's happening in a lot. But why is it that we're talking about it? Why is it that gaining momentum? Why is it that we're putting a training on this? Can you say needs? Needs. Perfect. Who has needs in this room? Who has needs all the time? That's me right here. Thank you so much. At the first level, what we're seeing on the top of the iceberg is that people's needs are not being met by the current organizations that we have. And by that, I don't just mean community organizations, but society, government, the economy. How many people feel that way? That people's needs, people are not feeling completely fulfilled. Okay? I'm not saying everybody is not getting their needs met in that way. I'm saying a lot of people are feeling this way. But if you actually go deeper a little bit down, right? The problems that we're facing today, the political, economical, ecological, all the crises that we're having on today, how many of you feel like the kind of organizations we have today can actually solve those problems? People are feeling that way, and that's why we're having a conversation about this. And if we go deeper into that, technology is changing a lot of things. Does anybody have a smartphone? A smartphone? Without this, Uber would not be possible. Yes or no? Okay, technology is dramatically changing a lot of things, the way we communicate, the way we share resources, the way information is distributed, the way information is collected. Is it good or bad? It depends. For some stuff, it's really good, and for some stuff, it's really, really bad. Yes or no? So FBI, say hi. Everybody say hi to the FBI. Hi. Great. We're good. We're good. We want to make sure we're relating with them. We want to make sure we're in relationship with the people that are filming us. And if you go deeper, and this depends on what tradition you come from or how you view the world, but in my tradition, we view that we are part of the ecology, that we are not separate from the ecology, that it's our mother, it's our Pachamama, right? That's our mom. And because we come from her, we feel everything she's feeling. And because of the fault of us, our species, a human species, we have driven our ecology to a very, very rough time for us, because Earth is going to continue. We might just have a rougher time. But there is a feeling, in my tradition, we call this Pachacuti, which is the shift of consciousness. How many of you have heard about this? That people are changing the way they're thinking? I don't know how you feel about that. From my tradition, we're sensing that there is an opening for a new cycle of the way people think and other stuff. But we see that there is a calling as a species to change the way we're organizing ourselves, because right now we don't even organize ourselves for the betterment of ourselves, neither for the betterment of the ecology. How many of you agree with that? Thank you. So this is just a little bit why decentralization is gaining momentum. Now I want to give it to Emily. So thank you.
Cool. So who's feeling like their mind just like had a little bit of an orgasm or something? It's like decentralization. Holy shit. Blown. So clearly where my mind's at. Anyways, so this is the water that we're swimming in, right? All of the things that surround us as people in the modern world, decentralization is all around us. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to actually look at some of the most simple dynamics of it. And then James and Carlos in the next session are going to take us a little bit deeper. But we're just going to get really simple right now so we can take ourselves out of the water that we're swimming in. You with me? Yeah. Cool. Next click. Cool. So who likes pictures? Who's a visual learner? Raise your hand. Give a high five to someone else who's a visual learner. Yeah. Yeah. You can be like, yeah, I'm a visual learner. So for me, these pictures really help because what they show is that I think actually the pictures are good and the pictures aren't enough because they actually should be animations. Because we know that organizations are actually always shifting and changing. They're like organisms, living organisms, right? And so we can think of these as movement, as moving, right? And in centralized organisms, what happens is that there's constantly movement into the center and then out from the center, right? So information, decision-making, where does it happen? Right, it happens here, right? In a very small group of people, in the heart, right? And then what the job of those people is to do is to push all that information, all of those decisions that actually happen here, the creation of them is here, out to all of the spores, right? And then what do? They suck it all back in so they can make more decisions and create more things and bring all the resources back to the center, and then they distribute them again. And so you see this sort of in and out motion in centralized organizations. How does movement happen in decentralized organizations? Where's the movement in this picture? More random. Totally.
There's still kind of a structure.
Totally. There's definitely still structure. There's not just like random firings happen, right? Yeah, totally. Movement is actually happening everywhere. And there's no direction. It's multi-directional, right? And it's getting circulated. Information, resources, decisions are actually being made in all different parts of the swarm. And there's no center actually for them to circulate to, right? And so movement is just happening all around. It's more of like a swirling motion. Cool. Any questions about this? Great, next one. So, but we know that these aren't just two types, right? It's actually a spectrum. And most of our organizations actually probably fall in different places on this spectrum, right? Probably none of the organizations that we're here representing are totally centralized command or total autonomy. So we can see that on this spectrum, generally, you either maximize autonomy and lose a little bit of centralized command, or you maximize command and lose a little bit of autonomy. And that's sort of the way that the dynamics of building decentralized organizations or building organizations, period, really happen. Next slide. Next one. So actually, go back. Sorry. So we can see that if we actually want to place where our organizations are on this spectrum, it might be useful to know what are the actually different types of organizations that might fall somewhere along the spectrum. So on this end, actually, next slide. Sorry. On this end, we have decentralized organization with a decentralized design. So who here, I'm really curious to know, was part of some kind of Occupy something? Raise your hand. OK. How much in common, keep your hand raised. How much in common do you think the different Occupies that we were a part of had with each other? A lot. A lot. OK, what do you think they had with each other? What would you say they had in common?
They had similar governance mechanisms.
Say, like, what do you mean by governance mechanism?
Most of them had, like, the General Assemblies and Spokes Councils.
OK, pause. I want to see a show of hands of whose Occupy had spokes councils in the room, out of the people who raise their hand. So like half, a quarter. Cool.
Doing it right.
Right. Cool. So there's an amazing lesson here. An amazing lesson, which is that actually, even though there was a little bit of centralized design at the beginning of Occupy, that actually the majority of the design was actually emergent. It came actually through the people who were doing it as they were doing it in real time. So I went to a very, very tiny college outside of Philadelphia, and our Occupy was 10 people. We didn't have general assemblies. Our demands were about financial aid. We didn't camp anywhere. We were like, our dorms are right here. Why would we need to camp on the green? Like, that's ridiculous. And we had very little in common with an Occupy that was in New York or in a major city or in a smaller city, right? And so much of the design actually happened in a decentralized manner. Who here has ever been part of a decentralized organization with a decentralized design other than Occupy? Yeah, give us some. Which one was it?
It's a group called Bicycling Superheroes. There's no leader. People call a space and people meet. And each new group sets the container and they bike doing service. It's about 15 years old. It's small, maybe 700 people, but it's all very decentralized.
Cool. And we're actually, as humans, we're actually doing this all the time. Sam was talking about, decentralized organization also happens when you go to a busy park and you want to lay down your blanket, right? We all have to figure out where am I going to be? That's actually decentralized organization. And really the only norms that are governing that behavior are the norms from society, right? There's not that many rules. So going down, what's that?
It's like a family.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Great. So going a little bit more towards centralized command, we have a decentralized organization with a centralized design. Now we're going to be talking a whole lot more about this type, okay? So I'm not going to go as much into depth, but Wikipedia is actually an amazing example, right? So some people decided that they were going to create this thing called Wikipedia, and there's very specific rules about how you're supposed to participate in the organization, right? And those rules actually allow a vast majority of people to actually contribute in a totally decentralized manner. Has anyone here ever been a Wikipedia contributor? Raise your hand. Wow, yeah, we did that in my 7th grade class. It was weird. And yeah, so what are some of the rules of contributing to Wikipedia? You can't write anything false. False, right? So we might actually be able to crowdsource in this room a lot of the rules of what it means to be a Wikipedia contributor. And that's actually what this type is all about. It's about there being set rules about how to participate in an organization, yet those rules being distributed so that everyone knows them, right? In a centralized command, who knows those rules? Only a small group of people, right? And their job is actually to distribute those rules outward and make sure people are following them. Here, it's all self-regulated. Cool. Then moving down towards centralized command, we have something like the Obama campaign, a centralized command with decentralized components. Who here worked on the Obama campaign? Cool. So it was a revolution in electoral campaigning because it had decentralized components, and that was a totally new thing in electoral campaigning. Because what they did is they said, who here knows about the van? The van, right? What is the van for those of us who might not know? Yeah, what does it do?
You have all your targeted voters there, so you can make phone calls or knock on particular doors, and then you can also enter the people as yes, they're voting, no, they're not voting, maybe they'll vote.
Totally, yeah. So the van is like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow in electoral campaigns. It's like without it, you're fucked, right? And it's the source of a lot of power. And what the Obama campaign did is they said, you know what, we're going to decentralize the van, so that anyone anywhere who wants to work on the Obama campaign, even if they're in fucking town of population 10 out in Montana, they're actually going to be able to volunteer for the Obama campaign just through their computer. They're going to download the van and they can make phone calls. And that was a radical shift in electoral campaigning that actually allowed them to go to way more scale than other electoral campaigns. Cool. Then going down, we have centralized command with centralized components. Can everyone say that with me? Centralized command with centralized components. Yes. Something like a union worker committee, right? Where there might be chapters, but those chapters are still very centralized and have very strong command. And then we have something that's uber centralized command, like the military, right? Which actually the military has some elements now of decentralization. Spooky, ooh. They're here somewhere. But those decentralized elements are still accountable to a centralized command. They don't actually have that much autonomy in decision-making power, right? In a minute, we're actually going to evaluate where our organizations are at, right? because I heard a lot of people here when Carlos was talking about growing our organizations, etc., be really excited about changing their organizations. But we actually have to first know where our organizations really are, right? Sometimes we get really, really excited about where we can go, and we forget to really actually root that in reality. What is it that Saul Alinsky said about reality? Oh, I'm going to forget it. Okay, never mind. Well, I'll find out together sometime. Okay. So what we're going to do in a minute is that we're going to stand up and think, where is my organization at? From a spectrum of decentralized, total autonomy to centralized command. And so some things to think about would be, who makes decisions in your organization? Where is information stored? How are resources flowing, right? If you imagine those two diagrams, right, before, with the hub in the center versus multiple hubs all communicating and coordinating with one another, where does your organization fit in a spectrum along those lines? A lot of these organizations actually don't have centralized components. They might have had centralized components at one moment in time, right? So Alcoholics Anonymous was started by, what's his name? Phil W. Bill. Sorry, Phil. Bill W. And, right? Bill. Was started by Bill W. So he was actually a centralized organization of one, right? The most centralized organization that there is. But actually the thing that he created was a decentralized organization without any centralized components. Now there's actually no accountability mechanism or structure or office of AA that says you are not AA. There's a set of principles and traditions that actually hold people accountable to being AA. So it's actually, there was centralized design at one point, and now it's a totally decentralized organization. So there's set rules, but not centralized components anymore. Does that make sense? We'll be going into more depth in this type, and you'll get a little bit more sense of what design means versus components and how it all actually works out in practice.
It kind of occurs to me, though, that the centralized or decentralized design is not in opposition with the components on the other side. It's actually in opposition with the command. Mm-hmm. Design versus command. Mm-hmm. So, like, they're flipped. It's not, perfect. Right?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Great. Thank you. Okay, so it also, like, you could totally ignore the bottom part of this spectrum. Like, it's actually to help you think about and compare what does my organization look like. But actually, the far more important thing is that you actually just get to evaluate and take a step back and look from a broader view at what your organization is like. So you are the person who actually knows your organization best. So, cool. Everyone ready to get on the spectrum? Yeah. Fun. Okay. So, again, far side is total centralized control. This side is total autonomy, and you're going to get wherever you think your organization falls on that spectrum.